How's it going, guys? Winter Kills here, and welcome back to the top replays and highlights series. Where as per usual, we're going to take a look at some pretty cool replays from some of my past Twitch streams and some submitted replays from some of my Twitch subscribers. Link to my Twitch down in the description below. I stream every Sunday and Monday around anywhere between 7 or 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So check out a stream if you haven't already. But we're going to dive into some of these replays. The majority of them are probably going to be Infinitrack Train replays because that's what I've been having a lot of fun playing on stream as of late. And also, we're still on the new EDOpro, the EDOpro or Project Ignis. So, still working on gathering a large sum of replays for you guys to feast your eyes upon. But regardless, we're going to go through some of these replays here, and I think you guys are going to enjoy them. Just looking at some of the the replay names. The train pain has arrived. Train throwing it back. Yeah, we got some cool replays for you guys here. So let's go ahead and get into it. Roll the intro. Alright, so the first replay we have here sort of looks like somewhat of a mirror match, but it's basically just two machine decks facing off against one another. Eros Mekk-Knight on the other side, avid viewer and supporter on Twitch and here on YouTube as well. Always coming up with some pretty spicy things. You guys have seen several of his replays on here before. Some of his crazy concoctions, and this deck is no exception, but as you can see, I am piloting the Shaddoll Infinitrack trains. You can see that copy of Heavy Forward in my hand. New, basically tanky for Infinitrax that's coming out in Eternity Code, which will hopefully be sometime soon. But he's going to go first, start off with that copy. Brand new card here of the Machina Reinformation. Activate one of these effects, discard a card, add 2 Machina monsters with different names from your deck to your hand. Or discard 1 Machina card, add 2 Machina cards with different names from your deck to your hand except itself. You can only activate 1 per turn. He's got the Machina Citadel. Just a whole lot of plays that can be made here. Of course, the OG Machina Fortress and the Brap Recycler helping to facilitate some plays. Of course, going for O-Lion. Gonna allow him to link right into the Scrap Wyvern of all things to bring that back to summon out the Citadel from the deck, as well as the Fridge, the classic scrap combo. I'm sure you guys have seen that at this point. He actually revives the Recycler to my side of the field, which is going to allow me to dump Tellarknight. I mean, if I was still playing, the Ruffian Rail card would have been a really nice thing to send right there, just to kind of go plus in the end phase and make him burn and negate, if anything. But we're going to go into the Shaddoll Fusion, go into Shek, of course. And I want to mention that I did believe, I did send to the graveyard, importantly, the Anchor Drills. That is a good revival target. As you see here, go for the Dozer play into Trencher, because I want the Anchor engrave for the Trencher to revive, especially with the Railroad Stampede in hand. It's a pretty good setup play there, if you ask me. So I wasn't expecting his Citadel to actually have an interruption, but it does. Basically says, quick effect, you can target 1 machine monster you control, destroy that machine monster, and all monsters your opponent controls with attack less than or equal to that monster. So basically using that now to sort of try to wipe my field. Didn't get a chance to resolve my River Stormer, unfortunately, but I still get the Trencher to the grave, which is what matters most. He's going to use Needle Chief to tag out here to go into none other than Formula Synchron. Now, I'm sort of starting to do the final part of what this combo would be. If you guys saw the test time video, you know what it is. But basically, we're going to use the Stampede to target the Bullet Train to make them level 10, and then the Anchor Drill to target this to make them both level 9, allowing us access to a rank 10 train and then access to Earth Slicer. But he's going to come down and bring out the Satellite Warrior, which is going to pop 2 on my side of the field, which is pretty rough, but we're going to do some shenanigans here. Never got to use my River Stormer, but bringing it back and reattaching with Goliath is so clutch to get that search that I need to be able to go into, Gustav Max and burn for as much damage as I can, and then battle phase clear everything else. Unfortunately, I don't really have much else of a follow-up there, but he does have Shaddoll Fusion in his hand, which is really nice. It's allowing him to get Frigrista to get the Jet Synchron to the grave, but we're going to use the River Stormer here again. We're going to change battle positions. We're going to add another card, another extender. We're going to summon out Bullet Liner and go into the Derek Crane for number 81. He has Solemn Judgment, but really doesn't make too big of a difference at this point because we have enough damage to swing in here for game because of said Solemn Judgment. So really, able to play through the Citadel, play through the Savage Dragon, also play through none other than a Satellite Warrior of all things, and still be able to push for game the following turn. That's why I really, really do like this Infinitrack train deck. The Infinitrack engine is just absolutely fantastic for helping facilitate tons of cool graveyard plays. Be able to get access to River Stormer is incredible because not only can it set up the Infinitrack plays, which we were trying to set up in some cases, you can be dumping like Anchor Drill to the graveyard to revive a Trencher, or adding a key extender that you may need, whether it be the Bullet Train or that Derek Crane, and also that copy Nibiru in hand, really just sitting there to make sure my opponent doesn't have too much of a comeback. Now, this next replay here is called The Pain Train Has Arrived. No, I think it's called The Pain Train Has Arrived for good reasons. Playing against a rather unsuspecting hero deck. Now, of course, Unchained sort of here in Master Rule 5. They did get a bit of a slap on the wrist with the Malicious going to 2. No, at this point, he'd be able to extend even further. I don't know if it would make too big of a difference ultimately to his end board. But you know, the Cross Crusader, the Cross Guy, helping to revive that Mally one more time, essentially as if it had a third copy to summon out. But you can see he's summoning out all sorts of purple monsters. Now, this field in of its own doesn't look like it does too much. Doesn't look like there might be a lot of interaction, but there is. It does have Dystopia, which has different original attack, so it can destroy a card, you know, during the opponent's turn. Quick effect. Bane is a card we'll have to worry about for the following turn because it can destroy all monsters opponent controls with attack less than or equal to this card, and it gains 200 attack for each monster destroyed this way. And then, you know, a little bit of a sleeper is the Elemental Hero Sunrise. Of course, we know this card being great for searching. This little sneaky card right here. But not only can it do that, it can basically, when an attack is declared involving another hero monster, keyword there being another hero monster you control, you can target one card in the field, cost, and destroy it. So when this kind of really forces what your battle phase targets will be, you have to go for the Sunrise first. Otherwise, you know, he'll get a free pop. So you kind of got to tread water a bit carefully there, especially when you're already playing under one pop and you're playing under a Dark Law too. So things can be a bit tricky going, and especially, you know, he has the Honest Neos in hand, and he also has a Miracle Fusion. So it could be a little bit, you know, you gotta tread carefully here. So he's gonna burn the Dystopia immediately on the Harvester. Whether or not that's a good idea, I couldn't really tell you, but he'll trigger the Dark Law, of course. I mean, I'll trigger the Dark Law. Hits the Bullet Train out of my hand. Not too big of a deal, though, because I know I'm going to get River Stormer, which will allow me to search Bullet Train, essentially, and get it to my hand again, unsolicited by any Dark Law, since the effect is already activated. Now, unfortunately, everything I have is going to the graveyard. Luckily, I'm still able to at least resolve Shaddoll Fusion. But all these good extenders getting sent to the graveyard. So Derek Crane will not be able to activate because it never hit the graveyard. Shaq not being able to add back. None of my Shaddoll stuff being able to activate is really, really unfortunate. Now, of course, the Juggernaut Leaf doing what it does best, boosting itself up to 6k. Even with that Honest Neos, not going to make too big a difference. Now, with the Honest Neos in hand, it forced me, you know, not even with the Honest Neos, I'm forced to attack Sunrise first, because if I don't, he'll get a free pop. So boosting that Sunriser already at 29 by an additional 25 would mean that any deck, my deck has, of course, a bit of an easier time dealing with a 5400 beater. Other decks might not. So you can see how that could be a bit tricky. You know, just trying to go into the battle phase and normally just clearing things very easily is easier said than done, especially against a deck like this with them being able to easily search Honest Neos. But main phase 2, trying to, you know, bring back, you know, the River Stormer and Grave. All the Infinitrack Xyz monsters have this great effect where if it's in the graveyard, you contribute a Machine Link to splash on this card fence, which is great because that'll trigger Goliath's graveyard effect to reattach it to an Xyz monster control, which allows me to attach it to Juggernaut Leap. Now, it's basically 6k, which basically means it can't be destroyed by battle. At this point, against a deck like Heroes, it's basically, you might as well say it can't be destroyed by battle, and now it also can't be destroyed by card effects. Probably going to be pretty hard for him to deal with. He top decks the Call by the Grave, not the greatest. He's going to Miracle Fusion for the Shining. Don't really know what that's going to do for him, but Dystopia comes out. He tries to die in a tag for it and tries to pop the card, but it doesn't do anything because of the Goliath underneath, and he's going to try to save face a bit here, add back the Honesty Neos, and sort of prepare for the worst. We're going to use the Juggernaut again to go up to 8k. He tries to pop again, but of course the Goliath underneath it hasn't gone anywhere. A Panic Call by the Grave for thinking he might be able to stop it, but it does not stop me from going over that Cross Guy for an absurd amount of damage, punching for game. So the Pain Train certainly has arrived. Now, this next replay here was submitted by none other than Academic Thick. You guys have seen his replays several times before, piloting his version of the Tellarknight deck. His version a bit different than mine. You guys have probably seen. This also might be a sided game I'm not sure if he mains the Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. That might be a side decked choice. The Storming Mirror Force, I do respect it. Nothing like an unsuspecting Mirror Force to get the job done. But he's going to start with Vega, go into Anunculai, and dump that Deneb to go into none other than he sold 2,000 Nomadites to search that Altair for next turn. Oasis of Dragon Souls coming out to bring back the Deneb to get that search during the opponent's turn of the Vega. Our Generator player not opening up too great, playing the Drastic Drop-Off. When an opponent adds a card or cards in the deck to the hand, including drawing, they must discard one of those cards. This is an interesting choice to play in a Generator deck. I don't think I've ever seen it, but either way, he's going to alpha that to draw an additional card, saying you're going to stop me from drawing a card. Well, I'm going to negate that card and also draw a card in the process. And now we're seeing basically what Tellarknight does best. Chain summoning Vega to Altair, Altair to Neb, swinging with as much damage as he can, and he's going to end turn there, not feeling like he needs to invest any more resources. Now, he does have the Mirror here, which is actually pretty good, considering he has two Generator Dark monsters in hand, you know, Horar being one of the better generators in the entire archetype, being a Dark monster, so pretty good to shut that off. And he also playing a copy of Stellar Nova Wave, which I don't think I've ever seen played, you know, too often in Tellarknight builds, which basically allowed him to summon a Tellarknight card from his hand during the opponent's main phase or battle phase, so be able to trigger Altair in a different way, without needing sort of like a graveyard setup, I suppose. It's something different to Call the Haunted or Oasis the Dragon Soul. It's pretty cool to see there, actually. So we're going to see drop off here. Discards one card they just drew. So many discarding draw cards, which is interesting. Maybe he's trying to counteract the fact that some of your some of the better not better Generator cards, but some of the Generator cards do have a drawback of letting your opponent draw cards, so maybe those are there to counteract it. Escalation, the Monarchs being activated in response here, clearing off the well, I guess the the Boss of Delusion will be getting rid of the Shadow Mirror, so to make room for these two cards here. But going into Delta Rose, and also going into Castel here to attempt to clear the Horar, he's going to be forced to negate and destroy that, and he's going to go to the battle phase and swing in with the only monsters he can, swing in because of Altair's restriction, and go right into Delta Rose. He does have the Kujikiri Curse, level 9 draw spell, level 9 trade-in. Won't draw him into too much. Able to Cosmic Away the Field spell, which is absolutely huge, of course, being one of the key parts of the Generator strategy. He has enough damage on board to be able to seal the game there. So Tellarknight's holding out pretty strong against a pretty decent deck in the upcoming format, the Generator deck. So now this next replay is, of course, another train replay. I said there's going to be a lot of train replays. There's quite a bit, but this time around we are playing against none other than what looks to be a Guard Dragon Rocket deck. You guys have seen this combo plenty of times before, probably, or heard about it at least. I believe the ending board in some cases is usually pretty strong. Red MD getting summoned out. We know how good this card is. Going to Delingerous Dragon, then summoning out another Rocket. Delingerous Graveyard Effect. He makes Borrelsword turn 1. So this was a very interesting play. I remember there was a clip for this corresponding play. If you guys want to check that out, links to the Twitch clips will be in the description below. So this is where his board ends up ending on. It's obviously not where you want to be. He has the Ash Blossom to sort of make up for some of the mistakes he definitely made along the way. This, I'm sure, is supposed to be the Link 4 Unchained monster. Not really what you want to see. But it's supposed to have like spheres in the Unchained Link with the Savage Dragon. At least I think that's the standard play. But we do have Heavy 4 that's going to get met with Ash. And I top deck a card called Forbidden Chalice, which is fantastic. Which is nice because it's an active card I can use to break boards, even if I draw it as my 6th instead of drawing a card like Ash. Shout out to someone in my Twitch that gave me the ideas to start playing more cards like Imperm and Chalice, as they can be live as your 6th card, especially in a deck like Trains, which it may be a bit more beneficial. Going into the Anger Knuckle here, which is important because not only is it going to allow me to get back the Derek Crane that I just linked off, but it's going to allow me to discard that Anchor Drill to the grave, which I talked about earlier, having Trencher in grave with Drill to be able to set up that Pegasus play, which is going to allow me to go into a rank 9 and a rank 10, which will allow me to absolutely kind of demolish his field. There's the rank 9, the Earth Slicer, and then following suit, the Gustav Max. He's going to use the Borrelsword Dragon here to turn the Earth Slicer to defense, but I mean, it doesn't make too big of a difference. We're going to attach the Heavy 4 to his material, and we're going to pop 2 cards, and pop an additional card, I believe, off the Derek Crane, and just start swinging for a game. He did leave a lot of monsters in attack position, and to use his turn to defense on the wrong card. But yeah, I mean, either way, it was probably going to be game there 100%. The pain train certainly arriving to the station. Now here we got a Mekk-Knight replay. We'll mix it up a bit. This is versus blackwings. As good as this deck can actually be. Now, this is, I believe, an alternate build. This is basically what my budget build of Mekk-Knights would look like. Obviously, post-Eternity Code. I know a Mekk-Knight Gearsu is going to be a very expensive card out of the gate. And this is basically a budget build. Because this build does what Gearsu does. It just requires more engine requirements. More essentially bricks. But it does, at the end of the day, accomplish a very similar thing to what Gearsu does. Gearsu kind of just does what all of these cards do together, just in one card, if that makes any sense. So yeah, this playing the World Chalice Guard Dragon, multiple of ROMs, multiple World Chalice, World Legacy World Chalice, and basically does sort of the similar thing. I did not open the combo here in this particular game, but we still able to end with the Memory in Secret, which is pretty darn good against most decks at the end of the day. Now, I make the mistake of ashing this card here because I just was too lazy to read, I suppose, and caught up in whatever I was doing in my stream at the time, realizing that's probably not the best thing to negate with Ash, since it is not a once per turn whatsoever, and he has multiple copies. So he summons out this guy here, tries to use the fact it's in the same column as Morningstar, so I don't need to move columns or anything as it stands. He brings out the Armor Master, which is just insane. Very hard for me to deal with, but luckily I still have one more trick up my sleeve, and that's the Memory to negate the Wise tricks. And luckily, Morningstar, being as clutch as it is, will stop me from, taking a lot of damage in the battle phase. Purple coming back, as it always does, and then using Key to get back World Chalice, also setting up potential plays for columns. Searching 2 here, normaling of Ram, going for the Imduk, extra normaling for that, and then going for the Lib, and then using its effect, of course, to set 1 from deck. It's the Whisper, so I can turn off spells next turn. We're going to go into Borrelsword, because Borrelsword does not care about Armor Master. Because it does not have to affect the card, as most of you know, to be able to gain the attack. And we're able to clear, also put back that Black Whirlwind in the deck with Lib's effect. He's going to try to manipulate levels here, but there's really nothing he can go into at the end of the day. I don't think he has the proper levels based on what these 2 cards do to be able to go into another card like Armor Master, which is nice, because another Armor Master to be able to deal with would probably be pretty hard, although he would have to crash, I suppose, at the end of the day. So yeah, Mekk-Knight's taking the easy game there against blackwings. I guess not super easy. We did sweat a little bit with the Armor Master, but that Borrelsword always coming in very clutch, as it does oftentimes. Alright, so this next replay here is another train replay. I'm sorry if there's a little bit too many train replays for some people's likings, but it's the deck that I'm very, very focused on. I'm not super focused, but I'm having a lot of fun with it right now, because it's a very fun deck. Really excited to see that it's getting some support, too, with Heavy Forward. The Infinite Track engine, I'm just now realizing how fantastic it actually is. Using the Urgent Schedule to get Anchor Drill out of the deck so I can tribute it off for Dozer and get Trencher, setting up the Trencher Anchor Drill play in the grave. Now, this little combo I keep setting up isn't something that I sort of found anywhere. I just sort of started after like some test hands and just started testing on my own, realizing that this was like a really neat play that you can pull off a lot of times, is, doing this cool chain summoning combo. And really all it takes is the Trencher Drill set up in the grave with a Pegasus hand and a level 10 on board, which sounds a bit specific, but not super easy or super hard to set up at the end of the day. As you can see right here, we're going to do it. Trencher for Drill, and then for Pegasus, bringing out the Dozer, making a rank 9, and then making a rank 10 to follow suit. We're going to use Goliath here to, or not Goliath, the River Stormer to set off Goliath and reattach Goliath. Heavy Forward to change the battle position. We're going to try to pop 2, which will happen. He'll bring out 2 more, but we're going to go into Mega-Clops, and I want to use Mega-Clops as, steal effect, so I go ahead and do that. He takes half battle damage here, not too big of a deal. We go ahead and recycle 1 during the end phase. I think I recycled the River Stormer. He just goes ahead and scoops there, realizing, with his hand as being as bad as it is, not much he can do in the face of the Infinite Track Fortress Mega-Clops. Alright, so this next replay here is showing off. This is something I came across, and again, we're playing against here, playing against Eros. And as I mentioned, he does oftentimes have these pretty insane builds that he throws out there. And this one, of course, is no exception. You guys saw me play against it earlier in this video where I came out on top. This one plays out a bit differently here. He's making me go first because his deck, much like mine, wants to go second. Now, on the surface, it just looks like sort of a cool Machina Shaddoll deck, which it is technically that, but it's not really. Its end goal is a bit cheesier than you might expect. So I go for my normal first turn board here. Now, honestly, maybe it would have been better if I would have gone for the turn 1 Clops, but again, hindsight is 2020. But either way, he has the one up Pankratops, which really sucks for me because it's forcing me to use that number 81. And if I would have had that Derek Crane pop like now, you know, stopping him from going into Needle Fiber, we would have been in a really good spot. And to be honest, his turn probably would have ended right then and there, because this plate, as cool as it seems, is probably a bit fragile like most really cool high-end plays. He summons out the Odd Eyes Rebellion Dragon off the Absolute Zero Dragon, not Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon like we're used to seeing. He's going to clear my Earth Slicer off the field. He's going to make Nightmare Unicorn to spin the River Stormer, going to access Code Talker, and, you know, gain a bunch of attack. He's able to run over my defense position number 81 and swing in for 3 times consecutively using the Odd Eyes Rebellion Dragon Overlord. Basically, it says you can Ixie summon this card by using a Rebellion Ixie's monster control as material. If you can Pendulum Summon level 7, you can Pendulum Summon this face-up card in your extra deck. This card that was Ixie summoned using a rank 7 Ixie's monster as material, it can make a second and third attack during each battle phase. So he was able to basically just OTK off of this card immediately, you know, with the help of the Absolute Dragon summoning the Rebellion and then overlaying into this. I don't believe this card is out yet in the TCG. Yeah, I believe it is an OCG card, so something pretty cool. And then the access code talker, this card is just absolutely insane. Cannot activate cards or effects in response to this activation of this card's effects, period, which is just nuts. Very, very insane boss mod. So you got it up to 5,400, 5,300, I believe, yeah, and is able to run over my defense position, number 81. So very, very unfortunate there, but just absolutely murdering me in the process. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and show you guys some of the prevalent deck lists for this video. The train list that I ended up playing, mostly the list that I've been testing the most on stream, basically looks something similar to this. I'm going to be doing an updated profile very soon on the channel, so stay on the lookout for that. Of course, it will be post-Eternity Code since it is out, I believe, in Europe, but it is being delayed here in the US for obvious reasons. But I would definitely be playing heavy forward. The list you guys saw in some of those replays was me playing heavy forward, and I'd probably drop a Night Express Knight, a Harvester, and an Ash for 3 heavy forward, and drop the other Ash for a 3rd Chalice, because Chalice is a very nice and versatile card, or maybe another Impermanence, I'm not entirely sure. This is the World Chalice mech build, so this is basically a mech build that I would play without Girsu. I'm going to be updating Pure Mech's post-Eternity Code as well, featuring Girsu, but I will be showcasing some budget options. But, you know, in advance for checking out this video, as cool as you guys are for doing so, here's a little sneak peek of what it would look like completely without Girsu. But either way, I'll still go into in-depth and basically a small little package that you can change to swap a build like this to a Girsu build. And then this is the OTK deck, the Machina OTK deck, taking advantage of the Rebellion Dragon Overlord for those that are interested, because now there's actually an export deck feature from replays for EDOpro, so it makes doing this easier, so I can show you guys not just my decks, but the other decks that other people you know, bring onto this show, if you will, and that are very, very cool. So feast your eyes upon it. Playing the Ascendant of Thunder, because it is a level 7 to get on board, which obviously helps make Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon, which you want to turbo out. And it helps get out the Rebellion, and it helps get out Rebellion Overlord, and then you're hopefully swinging for game with the help of access code Talker. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode of Top Replays and Highlights. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to help you know, support the channel. There are some ways to do so down below in the description. Checking out Imperium Duelist and using that discount code at checkout, winner kills 10 off, to save 10% off your entire order. And if you're, of course, if you're buying anything off a TCG player, do not forget to use my affiliate link located down in the description below. That first link. Of course, a small bit of revenue from your purchase will go a long way to help support me and the channel and the process. So yeah, don't forget to check those out. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, winner kills signing out. We'll see you guys in the next one.